What's up? What's up? We're back with another episode. Welcome to First Possession. I am your host, John Igoro, here with my partner, David Ogden-Bay, also known as Young Mustard. Let's see if he has some sauce to his takes today. But you know,
so lame.
All-Star break is over. Now we're into the second half of the NBA season. Now the games meant a little bit more. You know, you can't be, resting like you used to now because teams are trying to make a push for the playoffs. But we are going to discuss right now who in the Eastern Conference is the biggest threat to the Nets. So, my friend, we know the Nets are the favorites right now to come out of the East, but there are some top teams that could give them a run for their money. So, who do you think is the biggest threat to the Nets in the Eastern Conference?
I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Bucks. And I know you probably are, throwing your hands in the air again. Why am I bringing up Giannis? Why am I bringing up this team that still keeps losing every year in the postseason? First of all, bro, we're talking about threats to the Nets. We're not even talking about who's going to win the East here. We're just talking about who's going to be second place. That's all we're talking about. We're not talking about who's going to win. We're not talking about any of that. That's number one. Number two, I know a lot of people say Giannis can't shoot. It becomes a big liability in the playoffs.
Rightfully so.
That's a big issue with Ben Simmons, too. I don't know why people are just going to sit there and act like that doesn't exist when their best player is a post player. So how is he going to work with Ben Simmons come postseason time? I got to see it to believe it. I've yet to see it. So that's no on Philadelphia, at least for me. As it pertains to the Bucks, I think this year have kind of been coasting, in my opinion. I think defensively, they kind of take their foot off the pedal a little bit. I think they know the postseason is where they're leaving their mark for the year because they know the regular season doesn't mean much anymore. Now they know those 60-win seasons don't mean anything if you can't get it done come postseason time, as they lost to the Heat last year, the year before losing to the Raptors after being up 2-0 in that series. So it's clear that the postseason is their goal. And I think to beat the Nets, as impossible as it is, it's possible when you have a dominant post force. And they have that in Giannis. So that's one check mark right there. And even in the game that they played, though Giannis did struggle to close out that game in the last couple of minutes, he was still able to go out there and give you 30 plus and be a dominant force in the game. So it's all about who's going to be that second guy in the playoffs. And if Jrue Holiday is who I keep hearing a lot of people say he is, he should be able to at least step up come postseason time and make some games competitive. In my opinion, I think they could push the Nets to the furthest series, whether it's a 7-game series, 6-game series, no matter what. When you have that force down low, Giannis just needs that second guy to be able to step up. Like I said, Holiday could be that guy. Middleton, I don't think he's that guy. I said it time in and time out on this show. Middleton is good, but he's not great. He's a good creator, but he's not a great creator. And come postseason time, it's not Kawhi and Kyle Lowry that they're facing anymore. It's not even Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero they're facing anymore. They're facing Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. So Middleton and Holiday, they gotta step up, be big key factors, and I trust them way more than a point guard who can't even pull up who can't pull up at all from anywhere. Can't pull up from the mid-range, can't pull up from three. It's not even that he can't make those shots. He won't take those shots. So to me, I believe considering the Bucks have guys that can actually make shots outside of their best player in a Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think also considering defensively, they were really well-sounded. We all know Jrue Holiday's an elite defender. Also, Chris Middleton, a good defender. DiVincenzo's solid. Brook Lopez, a good rim protector. Giannis, the former Defensive Player of the Year. Even though the Sixers have some good defenders, obviously Danny Green, Tobias, Embiid, and Simmons, who's arguably the best defender in basketball, Seth Curry is still a liability defensively. So when he's on the court with Simmons, which is going to be in those closeout moments, he's going to get attacked every single time. That's a guaranteed bucket from Kyrie, guaranteed bucket from Harden. And I think the Sixers have too many holes to be able to compete with the Nets in comparison to the Bucks, who, though they have an obvious weakness in the half court with Giannis, I still don't think that weakness is enough to where I'm going to put faith in Ben Simmons to step up in the playoffs.
Listen, let me just get this out the way, all right? If everybody's healthy, I'm talking about with the Nets, the Bucks, Sixers, everybody's healthy come playoff time. I personally don't think any team is taking the Nets past 5 games. Just get that out the way. But since we're in the discussion of, who's the biggest threat to the Nets, I'm going to go Philly here. Why? Because you mentioned the Bucks. Listen, when your best option has liabilities on the offensive end, you're not going anywhere with that. You are not going anywhere. And I know Giannis has improved in some instances, but when it comes playoff time, the teams are still going to build that wall, and he's still going to have to depend on other guys to make a play. And now when we talk about Philly, right? In the Eastern Conference Finals, if Philly and the Nets meet, the Nets are arguably going to be facing the MVP of the season, Joel Embiid, a healthy Joel. Probably Defensive Player of the Year in Ben Simmons. And now you put those two guys together with the pieces that they have, Tobias Harris, Danny Green, Seth Curry. The 76ers, to me, right now are the second best team in the Eastern Conference. When everybody's healthy. Why? Because the Nets don't have any answer for Joel. With Giannis, okay, you can throw a couple of bodies at Giannis, force him to shoot. You don't have any answer for Joel. Nothing. If you make him shoot the shot, he can make those. If you leave him in the paint, game over. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So now when I look at the 76ers, granted, Ben Simmons has his issues also. He has his issues also, but I think he knows his role now. He's attacking more. He's becoming more aggressive. And we know an aggressive Ben Simmons is a more dangerous 76ers team. So I think in the playoffs, the Bucks have more holes than the 76ers because the Bucks, their major hole is their superstar has liabilities.
Okay, but who's going to initiate offense for the Sixers? Who's going to be their point guard? Who's going to play make?
Ben Simmons is going to be the point guard.
Okay, and when he's playmaking...
And what we've seen recently with the Sixers, right, they're starting to use Ben Simmons as the pick and roll guy. Not just, him.
The roll guy.
Seth Curry is getting the ball to shoot, to come shoot off the screen, and Ben Simmons is rolling now. When Ben Simmons is the roller...
Where's Embiid going to be on the court?
When Ben Simmons is the roller with Joel Embiid somewhere in the paint...
So Simmons is going to roll to the basket while Embiid's in the paint. That is scary.
Simmons can roll on one side and Embiid on the other side.
But then you can easily help off. Is Simmons going to throw a lob? So is Simmons going to throw a lob at that point? So you think that's going to work every time in the playoffs?
Obviously not.
You can't run that every time.
All right. So what are the Bucks? Okay. So the last two seasons, right? We've seen with the Bucks when it comes down to the last key moments in the playoffs. They make a box one on Giannis, and he has nowhere to go, and he depends on his teammates to make a play or to make a shot for him. And when this season, what have we seen that's different?
Okay, so I could use the same argument. When they double Embiid, who's going to step up to make shots for the Sixers? Is it going to be Tobias?
Seth Curry is one of the best shooters in the league. Danny Green is one of the best shooters in the league. And Ben Simmons, when he cuts, very aggressive.
You trust Tobias Harris, who's the other guy? Seth Curry and Danny Green more than Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday. That's what you're saying.
Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday
combined.
Come on.
We've seen Drew in the postseason. Remember what he did to Damian Lillard now?
They had a squad. Come on.
Rajon
Rondo, Anthony Davis.
Of course, but he stepped up and did his part. And he clamped up Damian Lillard on the other side. So defensively, he can give problems to a Kyrie Irving. He's not going to be able to shut him down, but he can give problems to him. Kevin Durant even gone on the record and said Drew gives a lot of problems on the defensive side of the ball. Drew can also even guard up. He can guard players a little bit taller than him also. So Drew Holiday, an elite defender. Chris Middleton, a good defender. Giannis to play help. And Brook Lopez, who even made an all-defensive team last year, great rim protector. They have bodies on the defensive side of the ball. The Sixers, Tobias Harris has stepped up defensively.
Seth Curry is the only weak link for the 76ers.
But he's a big weak link.
And when they need defense, you know who they can bring on? Matisse Thybulle on the bench.
Who's not consistent whatsoever on offense, bro.
Okay, but you got to give and take. If you want
there's a reason he was going to get traded.
If you want defense, you've got to just say, okay, my guy, listen, we don't care what you do on the offensive end.
Okay, and imagine a lineup. Imagine a lineup where you have Simmons and Thybulle on the court. Defensively, that's great. But like you said, the Nets are unstoppable, right?
Okay.
So offensively, who's scoring? Is it Embiid?
Listen. When you double Embiid in the post, that opens up everything for every.
And who's creating at that point? Who's creating?
Who's
going to create?
I'm saying when Embiid has the ball in the post and you pass it out to Ben Simmons, right? You're basically telling Ben go play 4-on-3, and he's not going to stand at the 3-point line to shoot the ball. He's going to cut, and that attracts the defense.
Okay,
and now he can
when
pass
the
it out
defense
to the Seth Curry,
is sagging off of Simmons, they're not giving him any attention. So all the things you say about Giannis, the box and one. It's even worse with Simmons because with Simmons, there's no attention at all given to Simmons. It's 4-on-5 basketball, man. Come on now. You know that Simmons can cut and do all that. That stuff can only get you so far.
But my thing is, Ben Simmons is not the Sixers' #1 option. Granted, he does have limitations. He has limitations. I'll give you that. But he's not their #1 option. Giannis is the Bucks' #1 option. So when you take that away, what do you go? Are you relying on Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday to get you buckets against the Nets? No. Philadelphia is a much better team to me than the Bucks. And when you bring up Costa, no, I think people have just figured them out. Okay, people have just figured them out when it comes postseason
and they've
time.
had issues with COVID as well. So
Granted, I'll give you that. When it comes postseason time, we know exactly how this is going to go. Giannis is going to get boxed in, and he's going to have to rely on his guys to make shots. And if they can't make shots, season over.
I mean, okay, but before we move on, you said teams are figuring them out. I think more so they're figuring out that Middleton is not that good. I think because Middleton has had his lapses this year.
You know, Middleton won a game by himself last postseason, right? No, I'm just saying. If you watch the series, he did win a game by himself. So all this talk about
So are we
Chris
going to
Middleton,
excuse all the other games where he just didn't step up? Like, I could point out that Raptors series where he shot terrible in that series. I could point out the fourth quarters where every single fourth quarter except the game
this is what y'all do
played
with
bad.
Giannis that really ticks me off, right?
I didn't even say anything about Giannis.
Every time the Bucks come up short, right? It's always, Chris Middleton didn't step up, and this guy didn't step up, and that guy didn't step. Why not put the full blame on Giannis Antetokounmpo?
The full
because
blame.
the reason why the Bucks are in certain situations in the playoffs is because of Giannis. Missed free throws, always running into offensive charge every time.
So
and in the
full
playoffs,
blame. It's all Giannis'
caught
fault.
up with him.
It's all Giannis'
He's
fault.
a superstar, so
is it all his fault?
You got to take most of it. You've got to take most of it. You're the superstar of the team, so you got to take most of it.
I don't agree with that.
I'm just saying, we'll see this postseason. If anything changes with the Bucks and the 76ers, whoever can push the Nets to 6 or 7 games, I don't think it's happening, but we'll see come playoff time. Moving on to the next segment. The Mavericks, who started off the season slow, but they've started to find their groove right now. Kristaps Porzingis, his name has been around the trade block, but he's been proving that, hey, I'm still one of the best bigs in the league. Luka Doncic, we know what he brings to the table. So do you think the Mavs are still a threat in the Western Conference? Last year, they took the Clippers to 6 games without Luka Doncic having a healthy Porzingis, like most of us would say. So people thought, obviously this year they will make that jump. But do you think they're still a threat in the Western Conference?
Yeah, I think they are. I think so. I think the Mavs are they're going to be one of those teams that, even though their record says they shouldn't be a competing team in the West and some of the numbers, I think when you have a Luka Doncic and a healthy Kristaps Porzingis, you can beat any team in the NBA in a 7-game series. Any team, trust me, any team. Nets, Lakers, Clippers. Yes, that's how talented I believe Luka is. And if Luka's as great as we all think he is as a young talent, him having another top 20, 25 player, that should be able to compete. Now, Porzingis is the X factor because his health and his consistency. I think he struggles on the board at times to, box people out because he doesn't want to be physical. I think a lot of times he's scared of his health, to get physical and all of that stuff. And he sometimes settles for the three-point shot a little bit too much. But I think considering the fact that Luka Doncic is just so offensively talented, I'm not trying to boost Luka.
He is.
But he is so offensively gifted. His ability to play make and create for others. You got players like Josh Richardson, Maxi Kleber who have stepped up. I think when you combine their role players with the fact that they have 2 players in Luka and KP, I think they can take out anybody. The Lakers, and with Anthony Davis and LeBron, their role players are fairly inconsistent. They're thinking about bringing JaVale McGee back, and that's not even good. Not only do you have them, the Clippers, we saw what they could do to the Clippers last year in the playoffs. The Jazz are not cemented in the postseason. Even though they have the #1 record, they're not cemented. So those are the top 3 to 4 teams right there. And that doesn't even include teams like the Blazers, the Nuggets, who have obvious holes, especially on the defensive end. So I think when you have all those teams in the Western Conference that are not unbeatable, I think that when you throw in a Mavericks team that's catching fire at the right time, they should be able to compete with a lot of teams. And like I said earlier, when you got a guy like Luka Doncic, combined with a top 20, 25 player in Kristaps Porzingis, that's a recipe to take down any team if they play up to their capabilities. It's all about if Porzingis can play up to his capabilities. We already know what Luka brings to the table, and if Porzingis is healthy. And I think if all of those things are check boxes that are checks for the Mavericks, they can beat any team in the NBA.
I don't think so. Are they a threat? I don't think so. Can they contend? Yes. There's a difference. Now, when we talk about threats, right? Obviously, who can take down the Lakers? We look at teams like the Clippers and the Suns and the Jazz. Are they a threat to maybe give a team for a run for their money, like we've seen them take the Clippers to 6 games last year? And why do I think they're not a threat? Because Kristaps Porzingis, his health, that's still a question that needs answering. Can he be healthy for a full 7-game series? Last year, he could even last 6 games. Granted, he was coming off of surgery, but he's also coming off surgery this season. You know what I'm saying? So Kristaps Porzingis, he's the second star. Can he stay healthy? Even when he's healthy, can he be dominant? He tends to shoot a lot of threes here and there. I mean, granted, he's not your post-up guy. He's 7'1", but he's not your post-up guy. He's a stretch 5 here and there. But when you take Luka Doncic, you can't necessarily take Luka out the game. But if a team doubles Luka, who's the next guy? Who's the guy that steps up for the Mavericks? And that's still a question. They have a couple of guys that can make shots. Tim Hardaway Jr., Jalen Brunson's an all right piece. But Kristaps Porzingis is still, I think, the main effect to the Mavericks making a run in the playoffs. Can he be that guy that we see in the Knicks, averaging 25 points a game, just about 10 rebounds? And I think he settles for a lot of threes, and sometimes he needs to go to the paint and go to work. And that's still my issue with the Mavs. Listen, when you have Luka Doncic, you can't compete with anybody in the league because that's just how special he is of a player, of a talent in the Western Conference. And when I just look at the teams at the top, right now they're sitting in the A seed. So that means, okay, granted, there's still a lot of games to be played, but they're looking at teams like the Jazz, the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Suns in the first round. And granted, I don't think they have any chance against any of those guys.
Any chance?
I don't think they have a chance against
any of those. You think the Suns are that good?
The Suns are very good. They're second in the Western Conference. What do you mean?
But I don't think that any team in the West is just miles ahead of anybody, other than maybe the Lakers when they're at full strength. I don't think anybody is miles ahead. I think this is how I look at the hierarchy of the Western Conference. You have the Lakers and Clippers. You have the Jazz, the Blazers, the Nuggets, all those middle-of-the-pack teams. And I think that's where the Mavs are. Even though the Jazz record says they're so much better than everybody. So you're not a Jazz believer? I'm not a Jazz believer like that. I'm not, man. I'm not. I don't think the Jazz are way better than anybody in the West.
I mean, not way better, but you got to consider them one of the best.
They're having a better season than some teams, but considering how COVID has hit a lot of teams, injuries to certain teams like the Blazers, how can you just say they're way better? The Jazz have just been more available. Like, think about it. Who's gotten hurt on the Jazz? Nobody. Not only that, think about it. The Jazz, they've beaten great teams also. I'm not saying that the Jazz...
I think they've beaten most of the top teams
in the league. The rest of their schedule should be fairly easy for them because
the easiest schedule remaining.
Yeah, so they should continue this, this wave that they're on as the best team in the West, statistically speaking. They're top 5 offense, top 5 defense, but they're not that much better than everybody, bro. I don't think so. Like, I just think a lot of their players this year have stepped up. And come postseason time when there's only one ball and you have to have stars step up in the playoffs on the offensive side of the ball, Jordan Clarkson's good, but he's not great. Joe Ingles is good, but he's not great. Bojan is nice. That's it. He's just nice. Like, who's going to really be that solidified second star behind Donovan Mitchell?
The Jazz have a lot of good players. Okay, maybe are we considering Donovan Mitchell
I don't even consider – I know this is tough to admit. I'm not trying to sound like Shaq here, but Donovan Mitchell – I don't think he can be a number one.
I don't think he is either.
I don't think he's a superstar. I don't think he's a top 10 player. I don't consider him a top 15 player in the NBA. That's arguable. Top 20 for sure. Top 15, no. I don't look at him like that. You could argue guys like Devin Booker are better than him. Paul George are better than him. And they're on teams that I would say are beatable. The Clippers are not unbeatable. The Suns are not unbeatable. So what's the difference between those guys and Donovan Mitchell?
Their team, not just when we look at the Mavs, we're looking at Luka Doncic, and everybody else.
But their team is not bad. They got guys like Tim Hardaway,
Jazz is not just
Jalen
Donovan
Brunson.
Mitchell. The Clippers is not just Kawhi Leonard. The Suns is not just Devin Booker or Chris Paul. It's a bunch of guys that can step up. And when I look at the Mavs last year and this year, it's a lot of Luka Doncic and fair to a minimum of.
But they have
else.
guys that can step up. Last year they had guys like
Tim Hardaway Jr.?
But last year guys stepped up for them. Last year they had Tim Hardaway that stepped up.
The loss of Seth Curry hurt them because Seth Curry had some big shots last year.
Of course.
And now he's not there anymore. And now I see a lot of Luka and less of nobody else.
So, okay, but we saw last year the Lakers, right?
Okay.
One of the biggest questions for the Lakers going into the postseason was their lack of depth. People thought that they had struggled off the bench, but we saw last year they had LeBron and AD, and every single night it felt like another guy was stepping up, right? Some nights it was Kuzma. Some nights it was Caruso. Some nights it was Rondo, Dwight. A lot of guys step up. The Mavs have something similar. They got guys like Josh Richardson, Maxi Kleber, Jalen Brunson, Tim Hardaway Jr., Trey Burke sometimes even steps up for them. Obviously, those guys may lack in certain areas. They're not the greatest shot creators. Yep. They're not the great. Some are not the greatest defenders. But they're still guys that can contribute in certain specialists in certain areas. And if they have those kind of specialists, and Luka, if he's as great as we all think he is, a top 10 player, arguably the best point guard in the league to some people, then he, along with arguably top 5 to you, he along with Porzingis, if he's fully healthy and they're playing up to their capabilities, how can they not compete with the Utah? How can they not compete with the LA? Either LA, Clippers or Lakers, especially if Anthony Davis is not 100%. Like, come on, these, even though they're 7th or 8th in the West, I can't remember their seeding, they still should be able to compete with certain teams in a 7-game series to at least push them to 6 or maybe 7, maybe even an upset. Because to me, I think they're just that good. I think that Porzingis, he's just struggled to get to where he was last year due to the injury and the surgery. So once he gets back into that, there's still some games to be played. He can get into that rhythm. And we saw him dominate the Clippers last year. Dominate. So it's not impossible for them to give elite teams a run for their money, in my opinion.
I'm just going to end it on this note, right? When it's one guy and a bunch of other guys, and when it comes playoff time, it's hard to lock in on that one guy. We've seen it in the past with Giannis, with Steph Curry when KD got hurt last year. We've seen it with James Harden last year. It's easy to lock in on one guy when it's just him and a bunch of other guys. But when they're a team, like we see with Kawhi's Raptors, when they're a team, when you have that one guy and it's a bunch of other good guys, it's hard to beat them. And that's what I think with Luka, and that's what I think is their weakness. It's a bunch of Luka and nobody else.
So you think they're a one-man show?
They are a one-man show.
Wow.
They are a one-man show.
Porzingis
has showed flashes recently, but he's been very inconsistent. He has been very inconsistent. And hopefully they can figure it out in the playoffs because granted, Luka is just that great that sometimes 2 guys aren't enough to cover him. You need 3 guys. And
hell, throw 3.
Exactly. And that can get tired and exhausted come playoff time. But we'll see. We'll see how the Mavs fare out. But staying in the Western Conference, we move on to the Memphis Grizzlies, who have had sort of a shaky season. And people are starting to raise questions on if Ja Morant is overrated. And listen, I think those comments are unfair to Ja.
Nah, actually, let me just go.
You want to go?
Because I personally requested we talk about this to everybody out there. I think that there's been this wave of people trying to tell me and some people like me that Ja is better than he actually is. I heard some people say he should have been an all-star.
No.
I heard some people say that he's better than De'Aaron Fox. I've heard people say he's better than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And, you know, things just keep going on. And I think a lot of people I think people just straight up overrate him. I'm just going to be honest.
Overrate him?
Yeah, they overrate him. I think Ja is overrated.
Come on,
I think, for one, defensively, he's not elite or anything. He's definitely capable on that end, but he's not elite. Offensively, there are holes in his game, especially his scoring. Like, his three-point shooting has been abysmal this year. Like, I don't know why nobody's talking about it, but he's only attempting like 3 or 4 threes a game, and he's shooting below 30%.
He's never been the greatest of shooters.
Exactly, but that can be a huge hindrance on point guards. How many point guards have we seen come into the NBA where when they struggle with their shot, it's just hard for them to develop because then you have to find other ways to be effective at an elite level. Like, think about it. Ben Simmons is great at everything but shooting. And guess what? He's at that not lower tier, but that second tier of point guards because of it. You know, so look at someone like Ja. He's never going to be as great as Ben Simmons on defense, just off of size alone. So just imagine how much of a hurdle it's going to be for him to overcome the lack of a jump shot, unless he grows into it, obviously. But when you're looking at other point guards in the league, a De'Aaron Fox, for example, yeah, he's not winning as much as Ja, but does he have the team that Ja has? Ja's playing with Jonas Valanciunas, and I assume when what's-his-name comes back, Jaren Jackson Jr., when he gets back, look at what they're going to be when that happens. Meanwhile, De'Aaron Fox has to play in Sacramento, an organization so bad they drafted Marvin Bagley before Luka Doncic. Like, come on now. And then you got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's not only a better shooter than Ja, better defensively than Ja, or at least on par with him on defense. And then as a scorer, I think he's miles better than Ja. So to me, there are other young guards that can give you what Ja gives you and then some. I didn't even mention the D'Angelo Russell, who I wouldn't put over Ja, but I think he's around that same tier. Absolutely. Like, how much better is Ja than a D'Lo? Like, people are putting Ja in conversations he should not be in, and it really be ticking me off because I like Ja. This is no hate. I like Ja Morant. I said he was going to win Rookie of the Year before the season even started last year. I love Ja. I think he's going to have a great career ahead of him, and if he develops the right way, he can become the best point guard in basketball.
Best? No,
the
okay.
best. Ja has potential.
That's a bit too far.
But as we speak right now, he's not there yet. Not even close. Not even close to the second tier of some guards.
I wouldn't call him overrated yet, because why? It's just it's just his second season. Come on, let's get the guy a pass. I mean, just 1 year in the NBA. I mean, granted, when you are the number 2 pick, it comes with certain expectations, meaning, God, we need you to be great after 30 games. You know what I'm saying? We don't give you 1 or 2 full seasons. What? People like you already called Lonzo Ball a bust. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Lonzo ain't in his second year. Lonzo like a year.
I'm just saying, when you are top 1, 2, 3 pick, it comes with certain expectations. Yeah. And when you're the face of the franchise as the Memphis Grizzlies, you have to, your development, we're not expecting it to take 3 years, 4 years. We need you to hit the road, hit it running after a couple of games or after one season. And we look at Ja, right? He's averaging about 19 points per game and 7.8 rebounds. That's pretty good. I mean, that's not bad. 19.8 points per game, 7.8 rebounds, and they're sitting right now in 9th in the Western Conference. Who knows how this season is going to end? They can find themselves in the playoffs when the season ends. And when I look at the Memphis Grizzlies, right, obviously the loss of Jaren Jackson Jr. hurt them bad, but they've found Jonas Valanciunas. He's been great for them. Dylan Brooks, who we don't give enough credit, he's had a great season so far. And Ja is the one who is setting everybody up. He's the leader of that group. He's the one leading the troops. And at the end of the season, we might be having this conversation. Granted, he's had an inconsistent season because a couple of games it's like 30, 20, and then a couple of games it's like 12, 15. Granted, I'll give you that.
I know why, because it's an inconsistent offensive scorer.
When we talk about how weird the season is, right? The Memphis Grizzlies are one of the teams that have dealt strongly with COVID-19. They have played less games than most of the teams in the Western Conference. And when you look at them as a team, they have some issues, but they're very young. It's a bunch of young guys on that squad. When you look at that squad, it's a bunch of young guys, and Ja is their leader. He's the main guy, and I think he's doing relatively fair so far. With the numbers he's putting up and with where they are in the standings right now, I think he's doing pretty fair. I wouldn't go overrated yet because I need to see more consistency from him. I've seen flashes here and there. Okay, granted, he's not a top 5 or top 10 point guard. I think he's just right under the third.
But there are people that will tell you he's a top 10 point guard.
Okay, they're going too far.
And that's overrating.
But I'm saying he's right under there. Right under the third tier of quarterbacks with the Trae Youngs of the quarterbacks. I mean, point guards rather. He's the Trae Youngs of the. I wouldn't call him overrated.
But is he better than Trae Young?
I think they're right neck and neck. I think they're neck and neck.
I don't agree with that.
I think they're neck and neck. I wouldn't call him overrated. Yeah, I would say.
I think Trae is better than him.
Better than Ja? I would say they're right there. And Ja's in the Western Conference is in the 9th place. We're about to be in the playoffs, and Trae's over there in the 13th seed.
Hey, no, we'll get to the Hawks.
And we'll get to the Hawks right after.
We'll get to the Hawks.
Right after we come off the break. But I'll just end this on this note that I don't think Ja is overrated because I think on the team that he is, he doesn't have great guys around him. He has good guys around him. And I think they're doing relatively fair looking at where they are in the standings right now and what they've had to deal with, in the first half of the season.
And let's not forget, his supporting cast is not bad now.
It's not bad,
because they were
not
able.
great.
They were when he went down with the injury. They were able to man the ship while he was out.
Dylan Brooks, that was the guy.
His teammates step up.
Valanciunas and Valanciunas.
I think Valanciunas. I'm glad he's starting to get some love now because he's been playing really well.
And Mr. Slow Guy, what's his name? Kevin Anderson. That's the slowest, greatest hooper I've ever seen. But he moves at 2 miles per hour.
I remember when he was on the Spurs.
Yeah, exactly. But he's so good, and he knows his spots. But I think at the end of the season, we might be looking at Memphis in the playoffs. Who knows?
Maybe they were close last year.
Absolutely.
They came to one game.
Absolutely.
Decide,
but,
so.
That's it. We'll be back after the segment as we dive into the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young, they just fired their coach, and they're still not looking any better. We'll get into that. And when we come back, we'll touch some NFL, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. Stay tuned after the break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Ooh, still talking sports here. Listen, before we went on break, we're talking about how John Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies, were dealing with difficulties here and there. And now we move to the Eastern Conference, and we're going to talk about the Atlanta Hawks. They've had their mishaps. They fired their head coach. At the start of the season, they had John Collins calling out Trae Young. And now they sit in 12th in the Eastern Conference. And this is a team that we all thought could make some noise in the Eastern Conference and make the playoffs. But they haven't been looking good so far. So, Mr. Young Mustard, I know you're not the biggest Trae Young fan, but what do you think is wrong with the Atlanta Hawks? And because, like I said, they're a team we thought could make the playoffs, not only make the playoffs, but with the acquisitions they made in the offseason, make some noise in the playoffs. And right now, they're not looking so good. So what do you think is wrong with the Atlanta Hawks?
I think Trae Young's overrated. That's what's wrong with the Atlanta Hawks.
We need to strip the word overrated from your dictionary.
Yeah, there's a lot of overrated players, man. And I'm just here to call them out. You feel me? Somebody's got to do it. And I got to be the one. I got to take it upon myself to take the job. Because nobody has the guts to do what I'm going to do.
Oh.
You get what I'm saying? Like, it's like Thanos, because like Thanos said, nobody has the will to do it. So I have to be the one to do it. If I have to sacrifice my name, I will do it. But as it pertains to Trae, this is not personal, man. It's not personal. You just always are at the wrong place at the wrong time. We talk about overrated players, and you are still in that category, Trae. Look, I want to read some numbers for y'all about Trae Young. And I say this all the time. Trae Young is a good shooter who thinks he's an elite shooter. This is what I mean by that. We all know the comparison from Trae Young to Steph Curry. Let me tell y'all why they're so preposterous. Trae Young has never shot above 38% from three throughout his entire career. It's only been 3 years. Steph Curry has never shot below 40% throughout his entire career. Wow. Not one season. The only season he shot below 40% was the year he only played 5 games. So do we really count that? I don't. And let me read some numbers here. Trae Young, from 25 to 29 feet, he has attempted 159 threes, and he has shot 36%. Solid, right?
Not bad.
From 30 to 34 feet, he has attempted 34 threes and has shot 38%. Let's look at Steph Curry, and let me tell you guys why there's a difference between both of these guys. Steph Curry, from 25 to 29 feet, took a 294 threes, and he shot 43%. From 30 to 34 feet, shot 43% again.
Oof.
So you're comparing 38% to 43%, and he's still taking more. So when I say Trae Young is the great value Steph Curry, I'm not joking. That is the truth. Steph Curry is Sprite, and Trae Young is like Sierra Mist. It's no disrespect, like for real, no disrespect. But here's another thing. Trae Young also doesn't move without the ball like Steph Curry. He also has no type of off-ball commitment like Steph Curry. When Steph Curry doesn't have the ball, he's always moving, always moving. You're a shooter like that, you move, you're a threat everywhere on the court. That's not Trae Young. Let me give you guys an example. Steph Curry has made 100 assisted threes and only made 69 unassisted threes. Meanwhile, when we look at Trae Young has made 22 assisted threes to 63 unassisted threes. So just the way that they get their buckets alone show you that Trae Young is way more ball dominant than Steph Curry. Because Steph Curry is much more of an off-ball player. Trae Young, when he doesn't have the ball, doesn't move. And then you factor in, he's only effective with the ball. His playmaking is good, but it's just really pick and rolls with John Collins and Clint Capella. So outside of that, what is he really bringing to the table? He's not much of a defender. He's not getting boards or anything. And offensively, like I said, he's skilled, but there are obvious limitations and that he puts on his game. So to me, when you have that as your best player, it doesn't matter if you got DeAndre Hunter averaging 17 points a game. It doesn't matter that you add Gallinari, Bogdanovich, and Rondo. And it seems like those additions have not panned out the way that they wanted them to, because a guy like Trae Young is not going to get it done as your number one option.
I mean, to be fair to Trae Young and be ball dominant, the guys that they added in the offseason, they haven't been healthy. They have missed time. Gallinari has missed some time. Bogdanovich has missed some time. Their third best scorer, DeAndre Hunter, he's out with injury. So when I look at the Hawks, right, there are a couple of things that I think is wrong. Well, that I think is a very big issue with the Hawks. Number one, they're awful on defense. And obviously that starts with Trae Young.
Yeah.
Being a very small guard, there's not much you can do on defense. Come on, let's be fair to the guy.
No,
he's
I'm
about
not.
6 feet.
Effort matters, bro.
pounds.
No. Effort matters.
Come on.
Effort matters, bro.
Okay, there's not much you can do on the defense. And the Hawks as a defensive team, they're not great. That's one. Number two, they're a young team. It's a bunch of young guys that are starting. Trae Young, John Collins, DeAndre Hunter, Kevin Huerter, Clint Capella is, he's a vet or is he young? But he's a growing guy. They're a young team and they have no chemistry. They have no chemistry. Granted, they have no chemistry. Why? Because they haven't been able to play at their full strength. A bunch of guys has been hurt. They had issues with their coach, Lloyd Pierce, who got fired, and they have no chemistry. And obviously, who was the leader on that team? Who's the leader for the Hawks? I don't know. Is it Trae Young? John Collins, the second best player, called out Trae Young earlier in the season, saying, "What's it called? The offense can't be. Yeah, the offense can't just be Trae. I need more touches. My guy, you're not Jokic. You know what I'm saying? You're not Jokic. So Trae is the only guy on that team who can go get theirs and set up for others. Granted, he's gravitational because of how far he can pull, and we need to stop the Steph Curry comparisons because it's just making him take more bad shots and more bad shots. But to be fair to him, that's who he has been since high school.
Okay,
he's been pulling from 30, from 35.
That's the sign of a great player, bro.
And I don't think he's going to change anytime soon.
You got to be able to change because now is the time for him to change these flaws in his game.
To be fair to him, he makes some of them. But he does miss a lot of them. He does miss a lot of them. So when I look at the Hawks right now, right, they're only one game away from the 8th seed in the playoffs. Granted, the East is weak.
Trash.
I say weak, not trash. I say weak, not trash. And they're only a game out from the playoffs. And when you look at their team, they haven't been fully healthy. Rondo, I don't know about that pickup. It's not looking good right now.
You know, Rondo's a playoff guy, man. He's not worried about the regular season.
If you don't get to the playoffs, we ain't going to get playoff Rondo. You know what I'm saying? If you don't get to the playoffs, ain't going to be no playoff Rondo. So I'm saying Rondo hasn't looked great for the Hawks yet. DeAndre Hunter is hurt right now. He has missed some time. Gallinari missed for most of the first half of the season. DeAndre Hunter, now, he's been hurt. We just look at the Hawks. It's just Trae and a bunch of other guys. It's like, who's going to help the guy out? He's the smallest.
To be fair, DeAndre Hunter was playing well before
he was balling out. He's your third best scorer. After Trae and John Collins, he was the third best scorer, averaging just over 17 points per game. And now he's been hurt. Kevin Huerter hasn't stepped up. Let's not forget Cam Reddish also has been hurt. That's a lot of guys that has been hurt.
To be fair, Cam Reddish is not that good.
He's not that good, but he's a solid defender. Somebody who they can bring off the bench. Give him about 10 to 15 a game. You know what I'm saying? And they haven't been at full strength. Do they have some issues? Yes. But do I still think they're all right team who can make the playoffs? Absolutely. Trae Young is just averaging about 26 points per game, 9.4 assists. Those are all-star numbers. You know what I'm saying?
He's not an all-star, though.
But the team wasn't good enough, obviously. The team wasn't good enough.
Okay, but how are those numbers a product of him just being that good or him having the ball so much? Because he turns it over a lot. He's not really that efficient. And considering the fact that he's so bad on defense to the point that they have to try to hide him every possession,
let's be fair, in the
how
NBA,
good
if
is
you
he
have
really?
the ball in your hands all the time, you're gonna put up high numbers.
Exactly. So
Brandon,
how
I'll give
valuable
you
are
that.
those
But
numbers?
you can say that about a lot of guys. Bradley Beal is averaging 36, and the Wizards are at the bottom looking in.
But Beal at least has a playoff resume. We know he can get
Trae
it done.
Young is
some
what? It's his
postseason
third
time.
year in the league.
Okay, but look at his mates. Look at his mates. Ja is already in his second year competing for a playoff spot in the West.
The
and
Hawks
they
are
have a
competing
winning
for a
record.
playoff
They have a
spot
winning
also.
record in the West. It's a completely different scenario.
Right, I'll give you
Luka
that. I'll
Doncic,
give you
we've
that.
seen what he's done in the postseason and doing right now. And you could say it's not fair to compare him to Luka.
I was gonna say that.
But at the end of the day, Luka is somebody that's gonna be compared to him for
'Cause
the
they
rest of his
traded for
career.
each other.
You know, like look at all these other guards winning now. Devin Booker is winning now. Like Trae Young, the time for him to win is now. They made all these moves for him.
Make a lot of moves.
He was the one saying that he couldn't handle the pressure being compared to Luka. So they made all these moves for him. They're spending a lot of money for Trae Young. And now John Collins' contract is coming up, and who knows what they're going to do with him next year.
And that's what I'm saying. The moves that they made, they haven't been able to play at full strength with the Hawks.
Man.
A lot of guys has been hurt.
I don't
They've
wanna
been
hear
hit by
that.
COVID. And let's just see how they do for the rest of the season. Listen, the next 10, 15 to 20 games will give us the answers we need to know
Okay, so
about
if they
the
miss
Atlanta
the
Hawks.
playoffs, is Trae Young overrated to you?
I think we'll have to start raising some questions about Trae Young
Okay.
if they miss the playoffs. But let's see how they do over the next couple of games, over the next couple of weeks. They're just one game out of the playoff spot. Just one.
What's the record?
I don't care,
It's two.
East, West, North, South. They're one game out of the playoff spot. So let's see how they do for the next couple of weeks. And if they make the playoffs, can we see some playoff Rondo? And can they be at full strength? And let's see if the Atlanta Hawks, listen, they fired their head coach, right? They got rid of Lloyd Pierce. And now I don't even know who's their head coach now. I think what's his name? The ex-Pacers coach.
Nate McMillan.
Yeah,
Nate
he's
McMillan.
the interim coach right now. And let's see if they can, make a push at the end of the season to make the playoffs. But moving on to some NFL football. There's still a couple of names on the trade block. Deshaun Watson still insists he wants to be traded. Russell Wilson with the Seattle Seahawks, he's still leaving his options open. And right now, if you're the GM of an NFL team and you need a quarterback, a la the Chicago Bills, the New England Patriots. Chicago Bears, rather. New
Man
England
doesn't know what he's saying,
Patriots.
bro. He's tweaking.
And a couple of other teams in the the NFL, 49ers, a couple of teams like that. If you need a
49ers.
quarterback in the NFL right now, would you rather trade for Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson?
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
I think they're both around the same range, so I don't think it's insulting to say either, but I'm going to say Deshaun.
Deshaun?
Yeah. For one, he's younger. Two, I think he's hungrier. Russell Wilson already has a Super Bowl. Deshaun has experienced losing, even though it hasn't been that long. That year was just so painful to watch, so he's probably more hunger or has more hunger to win. And I also just think Deshaun is better because I think when you look at Russell Wilson, we've kind of seen what he can do with the great team around him. And yeah, he did win a Super Bowl. But the issue with Russell Wilson is we've seen what happens when that team is not around him. And I've said this for years. Ever since the LOB era broke up, he's only won one playoff game. And it was against the Eagles without Carson Wentz. We've seen him lose just like last year against the Rams, where he didn't really perform that well. He threw 2 interceptions, only 1 touchdown to DK Metcalf in that game. And he completed less than 50% of his passes. So, in my personal opinion, Russell Wilson has his faults come postseason time, and Deshaun doesn't have the greatest postseason resume. I'm not saying that.
One playoff win.
Only one playoff win. But we've seen with Deshaun, to me, I think he's more talented, especially with his legs, because the arm, it may not be as accurate as Russell Wilson, but he still has a great arm with great accuracy. And when you combine that with the legs, he's younger, and he's more affordable than Russell Wilson right now. I think that Deshaun is the guy that I would make the trade for, and also he's younger.
I mean, if I have Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson on the table sitting right now, you would not get killed if you pick one of the other. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to go with Russell Wilson. If I'm an NFL GM, I'm going to pick Russell Wilson. Why? He has more experience. He's been to multiple Super Bowls, not just playoffs. He's been to multiple Super Bowls, been to multiple playoff games. He has played at very high-level games, and I think he has seen it all in the NFL. He has seen all types of defenses, when you have, how bad his offensive line is. He's seen guys come at him. And if I'm an NFL GM and I have a solid O-line, but I don't have that quarterback, and I need somebody who can make off-the-script throws, who can make the right throws here and there, I'm going to go with Russell Wilson because he has been there. He has done that. Deshaun Watson hasn't. I know what Deshaun Watson has. He has talent. He checks almost every box for a quarterback, but he hasn't played in high-level playoff games. He hasn't been there. If I'm in the Super Bowl right now, I want a guy who has been there and done that, and that's Russell Wilson. And I'm gonna go with Russell Wilson because, granted, Deshaun Watson is younger, but Russell Wilson is not that old. How old is he? About 30-something. He's not. He still has a lot in the tank.
A lot of years left.
He can scramble out of the pocket. He can throw the deep ball. He can throw the short ball. You know what I'm saying? They both check all the boxes, but I'm going to go with Russell Wilson because he has more experience. He has played in more high-level games. And would I say he's a better quarterback? I wouldn't say that. I would say they're equally talented, but I'm going to go with Russell Wilson because he has more experience.
But here's the thing. Russell Wilson, as good as he's been, as great as he's been, especially over the last handful of seasons, the issue with Russ is he's never been the best. Russell Wilson has never been the best quarterback.
Born in Seattle. What's their scheme of offense?
Time out. They literally got rid of their defense for him to cook, bro, and he never was the best quarterback in football. Meanwhile, with Deshaun, you still have upside with Deshaun. We haven't seen Deshaun with an all-time great defense before, have we?
Okay, but listen, Russell Wilson has been a top 5 quarterback for the last couple of seasons with a defensive-minded coach, Pete Carroll. Listen, we all know.
Okay,
obviously his Super Bowl was mostly Legion of Boom, but he was just that great of a quarterback that he could work with whatever. Granted, Bill O'Brien wasn't the greatest.
Don't act like he didn't have weapons on offense. He had Marshawn Lynch.
Granted, I'll give you that. But I'm saying, granted, Bill O'Brien wasn't the greatest of head coaches, but he was an offensive-minded coach. You know what I'm saying? And Russell Wilson has had Pete Carroll.
I know you didn't bring up Bill O'Brien. That man did more to ruin his career.
Right now, an offensive coordinator in Alabama. So I'm saying he is an offensive-minded coach. He worked under what's his name?
Bill Belichick.
Yeah, he worked under Bill Belichick. And you have Russell Wilson, who has played under Pete Carroll, who's a defensive-minded coach, and he's still been able to cook for all these years. And now if I'm a GM and I have an offensive-minded head coach with a strong O-line, if I have Russell Wilson under center, hey, we could do big things.
Why is it that whenever they got rid of that defense, that Pete Carroll coached
up? But who did they get on offense, though?
Okay, but
DK Metcalf.
Okay, but time out. They traded their offensive lineman for Jimmy Graham to let Russ cook, right?
Okay.
That LOB team is broken up now. They got him weapons in DK Metcalf. Also, he had, can't even remember his name off the top of my head right
Percy
now.
Harvin?
No, not Percy Harvin, but he had, I cannot remember his name. God dang.
Wideout for Seattle?
Yeah, for Seattle. I cannot remember his name. They gave him Doug Baldwin. He had Doug Baldwin before. He had Tyler Lockett. That's who I'm remembering off the top of my head. He had weapons on offense now. And this year, we just saw he underperformed.
O-line was one of the worst in the league, first of all.
But they paid him like he's the best quarterback.
And defense, they were one of the worst in the league also.
Okay, but you're not getting it, though. What I'm trying to say is when you have holes, like the lack of an offensive line, like certain weapons not being there, you're supposed to be the difference. You're supposed to be the guy to make up for all of those weaknesses. And then for him to go out there and blame his O-line. Just imagine how it's going to be when he walks up in that locker room again. To blame your O-line. And you wanted to cook now. He wanted to cook. So you want to be able to put up these numbers, and the organization is allowing you to. You had issues with your contract. They gave you the contract. Now you're complaining about the O-line when you know that the O-line's like that because you got your contract like that. Your defense is suspect. Now it's up to you to cook. And he hasn't been able to do so in the postseason other than a win against a team that didn't even have Carson Wentz because he went down in the first quarter. So to me, I'm going to go with the guy that I've seen be able to put up numbers despite his defense not being great, and the guy that I know can get better than where he's at, which is already on the same level as Russell Wilson as we speak. So I'm going to go with Deshaun.
I mean, like I said, there's no harm in picking either guy because they're both very talented.
Yeah, they're both great.
Top 5 quarterbacks. And when you look at NFL quarterback tiers, it's like Patrick Mahomes, like the second level is like Deshaun, Russell Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers, and then it's everybody else. But I will go Russell Wilson because I think he has more experience and he's been in more high-level games. But when we come back from the commercial break, you do not want to miss this topic because we're going to have a heated conversation on James Harden's legacy if he wins the championship this year with the Brooklyn Nets. That's coming up after the break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to First Possession, and we're just going to get straight into it because over the last couple of days, there's been an argument on the app Twitter about
Twitter.
If James Harden wins a ring this year with the Brooklyn Nets and Finals MVP, does he move over Dwyane Wade in the shooting guard rankings of all time? We know 1 and 2 is MJ, Kobe, and Dwyane Wade is number 3 sitting there right now. And Harden is obviously number 4. So the question arises,
Obviously
if Harden,
number 4?
Huh?
He's obviously number 4?
Obviously, yeah, over. Yeah, this is not a discussion. Come on. If Harden wins a ring this year, does he move over Dwyane Wade in the shooting guard all-time rankings? And I'm going to start off with this. The simple answer is yes. He moves over Dwyane Wade.
Shit, man.
All-time shooting guard rankings. And let me start off by saying Harden has something Dwyane Wade doesn't have.
This nigga tweaking.
MVP. Regular season MVP. Dwyane Wade doesn't have that. If James Harden wins a ring this year and Finals MVP, he'll equal what Dwyane Wade has. All right. Most teams play in the playoffs that have 50 or more wins in the playoffs. James Harden has played 9 teams in the playoffs that have 50 or more wins in the regular season. You know how many wins Dwyane Wade has? 4. James Harden is the only player to win 65 plus games without an All-Star on his team. The only player to win 65 plus games without an All-Star on his team. All right, he's led the NBA in scoring for 3 straight seasons. 1, 2, 3, 3 straight seasons. He's led the NBA in assists once. He's about to do it another year, which means he's going to lead the NBA in assists twice. There's no other player. He's simply better than Dwyane Wade. Dwyane Wade. The only thing I think Dwyane Wade has right now over James Harden is the finals, the rings, 1, 2, 3. And the Finals MVP, because we know obviously the rings and when LeBron was there, I wouldn't say that doesn't count, but he wasn't the guy. He didn't win Finals MVP. LeBron won those rings. But granted, the 06 one, I give him total credit. But I'm saying the only question mark we have about James Harden's career right now is he doesn't have that chip. And I think if he wins the chip this year with the Brooklyn Nets and Finals MVP, he moves over Dwyane Wade. Granted, Dwyane Wade had a spectacular career, but I think Harden will have a better career. The only missing link is that MVP, that Finals MVP, and that ring. Take it away, my friend. I have nothing else to say except James Harden. The only question mark that has been on his entire career is he doesn't have that ring. And once he gets the ring, we would not be having this discussion about James Harden being a better player than Dwyane Wade. What do you think?
Look, man, I just hate having to discuss stuff like this, because, there are certain conversations that shouldn't be had. And I just feel like this is
It's
one
a
of those
conversation worth having.
I didn't interrupt you, man. Come on. Stop talking to me. Because you already made me mad, bro.
The truth hurts.
He knew what he was doing when he brought this topic up to the table. James Harden is not greater than Dwyane Wade, and that's not changing anytime soon.
Not if he wins the ring and Finals MVP?
I'm not acknowledging you. I'm not acknowledging anything you said. Be honest, I wasn't paying attention to what you said.
Oh my God.
James Harden is not better than Dwyane Wade. You can say James Harden's a better scorer, that's fine. But considering that Wade's better on defense, and that's never going to change. Wade also has a Finals MVP. And I don't know why y'all just acting like it just takes one Finals MVP to pass up Dwyane Wade. Wade has 3 rings. He doesn't just have one Finals MVP.
Okay.
And not only does he have 3 rings, he has great performances in the finals. 2011, the year that they lost to the Mavericks, people always overlook the fact that Dwyane Wade, if they had won, Dwyane Wade would have won Finals MVP. He averaged over 25. He still put up great numbers in that final series, so that's my point. Secondly, Dwyane Wade in 2006 had an all-time great run to the finals. Not only championship, but run to the finals. In the finals, he averaged over 30 and beat the Mavericks, coming back from down 2-0 or 2-1 in the series. Then in the round before against the Detroit Pistons, who had Ben Wallace, Chauncey Billups, that same core team that went to 2 straight finals and won a championship against the Lakers in 2004, he averaged over 20 plus on over 60% from the field. So that run combined with the fact that he also took a step back and won 2 championships with LeBron and Chris Bosh in Miami, I don't see how you can put a guy like Harden just because he has 1 Finals MVP over Dwyane Wade when Wade has years of excellent playoff performances already under his resume. That James Harden, I'm sorry, what has he done in the postseason to put himself over Wade? I'm not finished.
Go on.
I'm not finished. This argument infuriates me because these Harden fans, like the one to the right of me, sit here and they just overlook the years of Harden underperforming in the playoffs. Years of him underperforming in the playoffs, even before the Kevin Durant Warriors. But then we'll sit there and say just 1 Finals MVP puts him over a guy who not only has a Finals MVP, but has great playoff performances that Harden lacks, better on defense, more defensive accolades that Harden will never get, and not only does he have more than 1 championship, but he got 3. So to me, this conversation and argument is ridiculous until I see Harden get more Finals MVPs or get just as many championships, because it's just so dumb to have a conversation
I'll just
like
ask you a
this.
question. Name me a team, right, that Dwyane Wade beat in the playoffs that's better than Kevin Durant's Warriors. Don't give me the Pistons or the Spurs. Give me a team that
Did Harden
is better.
beat the Warriors though?
That was who was in his way.
But did he beat them?
That was who was in his way.
Did he beat them?
Took them to 7 games.
So we're giving participation awards now?
I'm just saying. Listen, literally nobody came between
shit,
7 games of winning against those Warriors. And Harden was the one who came closer to win against the Warriors, with Chris Paul being hurt for 2 of those games. And all I'm saying is Harden has the numbers against Dwyane Wade. His prime years were more and better than Dwyane Wade's. He has an MVP, a regular season MVP, something Dwyane Wade doesn't have. He has the numbers. He's been the lone star in Houston for most of his years. Listen, Harden, okay, I'm not going to...
Lone star?
He was the only...
I know Dwyane Wade was a lone star too.
Listen, Dwyane Wade from 03 when he got drafted to what? 11 since LeBron got there, he won 1 chip. All right?
Okay. More than Harden.
He has, I mean, come on. Was Shaq a bum on his team? Was Alonzo Mourning a bum?
Shaq was far past his prime, yo.
Granted, but was he just what? Was he rich?
Shaq didn't even
contributing.
Shaq didn't even play 50 games.
He averaged about 15 to 16
Shaq played
points.
less than 60 games that year, number 1.
No,
Number 2, in the finals.
In
In the finals, he only averaged like 13 that series.
He averaged about 15 to 16 in the finals.
No,
look up the numbers,
in that series, he was not the number 1 guy. It was Dwyane Wade.
Granted,
and in the last 4 games, Dwyane Wade averaged almost 40 in the last 4 games. So to me, I don't understand what is the argument for Harden? Regular season numbers?
He has better, even in the playoffs. In the playoffs, he has more points per game, more rebounds per game, more assists per game, better field goal shooting percentage, more steals per game. In the playoffs,
okay,
not the regular season.
And in the playoffs, has Harden had to play with the LeBron? Has Harden had to play with the Chris Bosh? Has he had to share the ball with other legitimate superstars, bro?
You're making my point. Dwyane Wade has played with Hall of Fame caliber players.
And he's won.
Exactly. Harden has not.
But Dwyane Wade has played with other guys that have not been All-NBA caliber players and has won.
Listen,
outside of Shaq, can you name me another player on that Miami Heat team?
Alonzo Mourning?
Alonzo Mourning was far past his prime, man. He was at the end of his career.
Listen. You're making my point. Dwyane Wade has played with Hall of Fame caliber players.
He wasn't a Hall of Famer like that.
No. I'm talking about LeBron and Bosh.
But he won without them. And he won a Finals MVP. And he took down Dirk Nowitzki in the Mavs.
He has played with Hall of Fame caliber players and won. Who has Harden played with that is Hall of Fame caliber?
And how many?
And the guy that was Hall of Fame caliber, Chris Paul, he got hurt. And they were up 3-2.
Okay,
and he got
just
hurt.
like
and
that,
that's what I'm saying.
Just like you could say that, I could also say the same argument that without Kawhi Leonard on the opposing team, he choked in Game 6. Right?
That was 1 game.
That game is a big deal, bro, because we've never seen Dwyane Wade choke like that.
In 04 against in the Eastern Conference Finals, Dwyane Wade had 4 points, and they lost.
Oh,
my God. What now? Listen, every superstar
2004, his sophomore year, bro? Okay, you know what? Since we're doing that, since we're looking at his sophomore year, I'll go back to James Harden when he went to the finals as the 6th man for the Thunder. And he played like shit against the Miami Heat.
I'm trying to say every superstar have their playoff moments where they played bad. You can look at Harden's Game 6 against the Spurs. He played bad.
And also, you're talking about numbers. Let's not forget Dwyane Wade was crippled by injury toward the end of his career. So a lot of his numbers are not going to look as great compared to James Harden now.
Hey,
it is. You can't do that.
You got to play if you're available, right?
James Harden, and in the time span that he was actually fully healthy, he was a 20, 25 point per game scorer, an elite defender, and actually won in the postseason, which Harden has not done yet.
As Dwyane Wade had a 7 to 8 year span where he was a top 5 player in the NBA. Your answer, simple as that, is no. For the last 3, 4, 5
what does
seasons,
that mean,
James Harden has been a top 3 MVP. Listen, I'm saying he has been great, but he hasn't had enough help to win in the playoffs. The one time he did have help in the playoffs, his superstar got hurt.
Talking about help, like when he had Eric Gordon average 20 against the Warriors.
We're bringing Eric Gordon up in the playoffs. Come on.
Eric Gordon is not help. He averaged 20 against the Warriors. Not only did Eric Gordon average 20, he had Chris Paul who averaged
got hurt.
No. Wait a minute. In 2019, Chris Paul didn't get hurt. Kevin Durant got hurt.
KD got hurt.
And guess what? KD got hurt. The basketball guys gave y'all the win right there for the taking. KD gets hurt. Chris Paul's still there averaging 15 and 7 in that series. Eric Gordon averaged 20 in that series, and Harden couldn't get it done.
Harden couldn't get it done.
No,
he averaged almost 28
He couldn't get it done.
He averaged 28 points per game.
He couldn't get it done, bro. He couldn't get it done.
What more can you do than averaging 28 points per game in a playoff series?
Want to know what more you can do? You want to know what more you can do? You average 30 because that's what D-Wade did in the finals, bro.
Come on. Don't be that guy, bro. It's the playoffs, bro. Come on.
And D-Wade in the finals averaged 30 plus.
Come on.
So I don't want to hear that.
I will see this season.
I don't want to hear that.
Listen,
Harden loves to draw fouls so much. Why did he draw fouls in the playoffs? He's a loser, man. He couldn't get it done. He's a choker. He's a choker. Harden is a choker. He's a playoff underperformer, bro. He's a choker, man. It's okay. You're comparing a choker to one of the most clutch players in NBA history?
And now
disrespectful.
He gets Hall of Fame caliber players like Dwyane Wade had in Miami in 11, 12, 13, 14. He has Hall of Fame caliber players now, and now he can win that chip and solidify himself as a third.
You know what's crazy? Dwyane Wade didn't need all-time great players to win. Dwyane Wade got it done without a LeBron James. He got it done without a Chris Bosh.
So he was throwing a bunch of scrubs, right?
Outside of Shaq, yeah.
Don't piss me off.
A bunch of scrubs.
Piss me off.
A bunch of scrubs. Hey, you said Alonzo Mourning. Alonzo Mourning wasn't even an all-star caliber player at that time.
He had players who made plays on that squad. Granted, he did
Gary Payton,
almost 38, 40.
Gary Payton.
They made plays. He wasn't the only guy.
Pousey?
He was a star guy, but he wasn't the only guy. No one guy can win a chip.
Who has one?
I'm just saying. Come on, bro.
Those the guys we're talking about?
Let's move on. We got a show to do. Let's move on. Well, moving on to our last and final segment. Listen, we have another, conversation. 2-on-2, another Twitter conversation that, that came up in the last couple of days. And this one is a 2-on-2 battle. MJ and Kobe Bryant versus LeBron and Kevin Durant. 2-on-2, game to 21. Who you picking, MJ and Kobe or LeBron and Kevin Durant?
Well, let me tell you this right now. Nobody can guard Kevin Durant. It's not even close. Actually, none of these guys on this list can be guarded. Let's just be honest. So I'll get that out the way.
Thank you.
But when you got a guy like KD who's just, there's no answer for Kevin Durant, combined with LeBron James, and we're talking these guys at their peak. Right, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So we're talking Miami LeBron with Golden State KD versus obviously Jordan Kobe never moved teams. So them in their primes at their peak. I'm going with LeBron and KD, man, because those guys physically, it's just easier to dominate a 2-on-2 when you're physical like that. And if we're doing make it take it, Kobe and MJ not getting the ball back. I'm sorry, it really is just a matter of who gets the ball first. But to me, man, I got Bron.
Listen,
KD.
There's no defending KD. LeBron, obviously, the only way you can defend him is make him shoot the jumper. And when I look at this, I'm looking at the two stone cold killers of all time in MJ and Kobe Bryant on the same team. Okay, when we look at MJ, Kobe, LeBron, KD, who are the two best defenders on the court? MJ and Kobe Bryant. They're the two best defenders on the court.
Yeah.
Granted, on the offensive end, all of these guys are unguardable.
But defensively, I would say LeBron, like at his peak, when LeBron was at his peak on defense, I think he was fairly on par with Kobe, bro. On defense, yeah.
Okay, on par.
I don't think Kobe
None of these guys are on defense with MJ.
Of course, that's fair, but MJ's 6'6". It's not like he's going to be able to guard and clamp Kevin Durant.
Listen, you can't guard any of these guys on
Exactly.
offense.
So the defense is not really that big of a deal.
It's going to come down to the last 2 shots.
Ah, man.
And who are
they 5-on-5, man?
No, I'm saying.
Either way, who's getting the buckets,
if it's 19-19, right? If it's 19-19, game to 21, who are the 2 clutchest players on the court? MJ and Kobe.
Oh, this is pick up ball, bro.
Okay.
They ain't no such thing as being clutch, man. It's all about who's just gonna get the bucket, bro.
Who's gonna get a bucket? And who am I taking out of these guys to get a bucket?
Is Kevin Durant the best player in the league to you?
I think he's arguably the greatest scorer ever.
Exactly. So
and that's what I'm saying.
Come on now. What?
3 of the guys on this list, right, are 3 of the greatest scorers ever.
I mean, LeBron is still one of the greatest scorers ever.
I wouldn't say he's top 5. I wouldn't say he's top 5.
You talking about the skill set, or are you talking about like?
I'm just putting the ball in the hoop. I would not say he's top 5.
That's
On
fair.
all 3 levels, I'm not getting LeBron top. Granted, he's top 10, but not top 5. Kobe, MJ, and KD are all top 5.
There are other guys you could throw in there. I think Allen Iverson's in that conversation.
Absolutely.
You got Steph Curry, Carmelo Anthony, a whole bunch. James Harden.
I think this one is going to be a nail biter. I think it's going to be a 21-19 type of game with MJ and Kobe just hitting clutch shot after tough shot after tough shot. But hey, like I said, all of these guys are unguardable on offense, but the 2 best defenders are MJ and Kobe. So I'm gonna go with them over LeBron and KD. I wish we could have got something like this, but they all play in different eras, so that's not possible.
Way different eras.
But yeah, that's it for today, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of First Possession. Once again, I'm your host, John Igoro, here with my partner, the Young Mustard. Has some silly takes today. Y'all need to check this guy.
This guy's a clown, man.
We'll be back with another episode. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of First Possession. We'll be back again with another episode. Thank you once again. We are out.
Peace.